Hey, so today I wanted to talk about some passages that keep coming up in Christian circles. You've probably heard this before, probably countless times, where people talk about these certain passages and they say it's the scariest words you can hear in the whole Bible for a believer. Um, these words are not to believers that I'm about to address. And as a believer, you're saved. You have nothing to fear in the Bible. Everything is good for us. Everything is promises to us. So we can find comfort in the Word of God. We don't have to fear it when we read it. And I really want to tackle this argument because I think it's really deceptive. And I think a lot of people who read this part of the Bible don't understand it, and they start fearing and they start feeling condemned. And I really don't think that any believer should go through that. So you probably already know which part I'm talking about. It's in Matthew chapter 7. And I'm actually going to read the whole section and then I'm going to break it down bit by bit, how to properly understand this. So I have my little King James Bible here. Just bear with me because the words are really small in this one. It's like a tiny Bible. It's kind of hard to read. But it starts in chapter 7 of Matthew. And I'm going to start with verse 15 and I'm going to go all the way to verse 23, just to give more context, okay? And this is Jesus speaking, okay? So I'm starting in, oh, that's backwards. Duh. Okay, verse 15 says, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name, and in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity." Okay, there are also some parallels to this passage, but I'm only going to stick with Matthew just for this section. But it starts out warning us about false prophets, and it describes them as being wolves in sheep's clothing. So they're not easy to spot to the untrained eye or to the undiscernible. They look like sheep. So they're going to be acting like sheep, preaching like a sheep, claiming to be a sheep. And a lot of them most likely believe they really are one. Okay, so they're not out there like blatantly obvious. And it tells us how we can know them. It says, "You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles?" And then it goes on to describe a good tree brings forth only good fruit, and a corrupt tree brings forth only evil fruit. So a lot of people will say that this fruit is their actions or their works. And that's how we know that they're really believers, is how they behave. I don't sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Like it's not funny, but I don't know where you're getting that from these passages that it has to do with their lifestyle. Because a Christian, a saved person, can have rotten works, and an unsaved person can have great works. That's not how we know for sure that somebody is saved or if they're a false prophet, okay, or a false convert. But what we can tell is the fruit of their lips. Okay, so if you have a good tree, it'll only bring forth good fruit. If you have a saved person, the gospel they profess to believe in will be correct. And another way to look at it as well is with the correct gospel being the good tree, it will only produce converts, true converts, saved people, if they believe in it, right? Then it's only going to produce good fruit. But if you have a false prophet, they're not going to be able to be preaching the correct gospel. They do not believe it. They will not what they profess to believe in will be rotten fruit, okay? It's not going to be good gospel. Or you can look at their corrupt tree as being the false gospel that they profess, and the fruit they're bringing forth will be false converts. They'll never bring forth a true convert from a false message, okay? So that's just how you're supposed to be looking at this part, not about their works. And we have more evidence in the following passages, which also get twisted often, and it's Jesus saying that not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. So this one will be twisted to say, you can't just believe, you have to do the will of the Father. And they will imply that this means obeying the commandments or doing such and such an ordinance or whatever. But we can find out pretty easily what the will of the Father is, and it's not hard to do, okay? It's in John chapter 6. I'm just flipping there, hang on. Uh, 39 to 40. I'm going to read John 6, 39 to 40. And it says, this is Jesus speaking, and this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that of all which he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So we could see here that it's, if we're to insert what the will of the Father is into this passage, and I'm just going to do this for the sake of understanding it clearly, drawing that parallel. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that believeth on the Son. Simple, okay? So, doing the will of the Father is to believe on the Son, as we just read, okay? And you may be wondering, okay, well, how are they calling him Lord, Lord if they don't believe on him? Well, it's really easy. What does it mean to believe on him, okay? It says, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name, and in thy name cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? Okay, so these people have called him Lord. They have preached in his name or prophesied in his name, cast out devils, and done many wonderful works. Does that sound like they're believing on the Son alone? That they're putting their faith into Jesus Christ? Or are they boasting in their works? They're calling him Lord, and they're professing all their wonderful works. And then people will say, no, that means that they didn't fully submit to him. Again, you're not getting that from this passage. You're inserting that into the text off of false understanding. You're not reading that from this. There's no way you would draw that conclusion just from reading this. It's clear that it is that they're boasting in their works, that they never trusted in Jesus, but they added something to the gospel. They didn't see the Son and believe on him. They believed in themselves, right? And they're doing it in his name. And that is where we can go back to the false prophet thing. There are a lot of false prophets out there preaching in his name in churches that are adding works to the gospel message. Okay. They're adding surrender your life to Christ, make him the Lord of your life, obey the commandments, do his will, wrongly, of course. And they're muddying up the gospel. And they're only producing rotten fruit, false converts. Okay? And then I'm going to go to the last part, verse 23, which you can bet is also twisted. And it says, and then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So people will say this means they're working sinful ways, like they're working lawlessness. They're not keeping the law. They're continuously, willfully sinning, which again, you're not getting from that passage because it doesn't say that. It says you that work iniquity. What is a worker of iniquity? Well, iniquity just means inequity. It's not equal. Okay, so if you're working iniquity, that's because, number one, they're workers, and they're unequal with God in terms of righteousness. So they're holding up their standard of righteousness and their own works in front of Jesus and comparing them as if they somehow are good enough. It's really simple to understand. This should not be something to be feared for a believer. This whole section is not to you. It's a warning for those who are trusting in their works to turn from that and believe the gospel. So when they believe the gospel, they're repenting of this. They are changing their mind about trusting in their works to trusting in Jesus Christ alone. Okay? So don't be afraid of these. Don't let anybody try to put you into fear and condemnation and tell you that this will be you if you don't surrender your entire life to Christ, because we're not saved by surrendering our lives to Jesus Christ. We're saved because he gave his life for us. And we have to believe this message alone to be saved. And then nothing else written in the Bible should put fear or condemnation into you. Okay, so I just hope this is a blessing. I hope that really clears it up. It's pretty basic. I know it's not a really in-depth text, but I think there's still a lot of people that need to hear this who don't quite understand what this passage means. I used to be one of them, and I was in a lot of fear because of it too, and that was before I was saved. So I hope that you believe the correct gospel, and I hope that this blesses you, and I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video. Lord bless.